I came home for Christmas. The house was silent, empty, except for Grandma, hunched over the table, eating cold leftovers. On the counter lay a note: spent your $10,000 loan on a family cruise. Take care of her. Grandma looked up, her eyes full of shame, and whispered, "We'll fix this." I just nodded. 4 days later, they were the ones begging. Can you imagine coming home for Christmas, exhausted but bursting with holiday cheer, only to find your entire family, your parents, your siblings, has stolen your future, spent your last dime on a lavish Caribbean cruise, and left you a casual note? It was a gut punch that shattered my world, a betrayal so deep it still makes my stomach clench. My name is Rosalind, and I was 28 years old, just 3 months shy of graduating from nursing school. I'd driven 6 grueling hours home to Springfield, Missouri, my car packed to the brim with carefully chosen, beautifully wrapped gifts. I pictured the usual chaos: twinkling lights, the scent of my mom's sugar cookies, my siblings bickering, my dad watching football, and Grandma Eleanor knitting in her recliner. Instead, I pulled up to a dark, silent house. No festive lights, no wreath, just an eerie quiet. A knot tightened in my stomach as I let myself in. "Hello? I'm home." My voice echoed in the undecorated living room. No tree, no garland, nothing. The house smelled stale, with a faint, unsettling whiff of microwave food. In the kitchen, "Dear," came Grandma Eleanor's voice, the only familiar sound in this suddenly alien place. I found her at the kitchen table, calmly eating a plate of microwave turkey and stuffing. She wasn't in one of her holiday outfits, just her everyday house dress. "Grandma, where is everyone? What happened to the decorations?" My voice was tight with a rising panic. Her face, etched with 82 years of life, held an expression I couldn't decipher, somewhere between deep embarrassment and simmering anger. "Oh, Rosie, I'm so sorry you came home to this," she said softly, then gestured with her fork towards the refrigerator. "See for yourself." There it was, stuck under a souvenir magnet from Branson, a hastily scribbled note in my mother's distinctive handwriting, complete with her signature flower doodles. I ripped it off and read it twice, convinced I'd misunderstood. "Rosie, sweetie, last-minute amazing deal on a Caribbean cruise. Couldn't pass it up. Used your loan money. Hope you don't mind. Consider it our family Christmas gift. Taking care of bills when we return. Grandma couldn't manage the trip with her mobility issues, so please take care of her. Back in 4 days. Love you bunches. Mom, Dad, Jake, and Liv, hugs and kisses." They couldn't have," I whispered, the paper crumpling in my hand. "Left yesterday afternoon," Grandma supplied, her voice tight. "Right after they booked it. Said they got an email about a cancellation deal, paid, packed, and were gone in 3 hours. They didn't even think about putting up decorations." I slumped against the fridge, the words swirling in my head. My loan money. The $10,000 for my final semester. For my clinicals, my certification exams. My finish line. How could they just take it? Then it clicked. "You mentioned the money was coming through last week, when you called," Grandma said quietly. "Diane asked if you were still using the joint account your parents set up when you first went to college." The realization hit me like a physical blow. That account, opened when I was 18 for emergencies, with them as co-signatories. I'd never bothered to remove them, using it mainly for student loans and large expenses, while my daily spending came from a separate personal account. "They can't just take it." I cried, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew they could. And they had. My phone buzzed. With numb fingers, I opened it. A social media notification. There they were, all 4 of them, beaming on a cruise ship deck, wearing leis, holding tropical drinks. "Surprise Christmas vacation. So blessed," my mother's caption read, posted just 30 minutes earlier. "They didn't even take you," I said to Grandma, the betrayal deepening as I looked at her frail form. "Doctors said my hip wouldn't handle the ship, and they didn't want to cancel their fun," she replied, a bitter, humorless smile on her lips. "Your father said they'd bring me a souvenir." A wave of nausea washed over me. My legs felt weak. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. "Rosie, sit down before you fall down," Grandma ordered, suddenly all business. I obeyed automatically, collapsing into a kitchen chair. They stole from me, I whispered, still unable to fully process it. My own family stole from me. Yes, they did, Grandma agreed, no sugarcoating in her tone. To my surprise, she looked angry, not defensive of her son. And we are going to deal with it. My mind raced through the consequences. Without that money, I couldn't register for my final clinical rotations. No clinicals, no graduation. No graduation, no nursing license. For years of brutally hard work, derailed by an impulsive vacation. I grabbed my phone, fingers shaking, needing to confirm the worst. A few taps, and there it was, the account drained 3 days ago. A transfer of $9,876 to a travel agency. Every penny. Down to the last dollar. I tried calling each of them, straight to voicemail. Text delivered, but unread. Meanwhile, more vacation photos popped up online. Each one a fresh stab of betrayal. Let's look around, Grandma suggested, her voice steady. In the home office, we found printed cruise brochures, travel guides, discarded luggage tags. In my parents' closet, empty hangers. In the trash, used boarding passes for a flight to Miami. Every discovery confirmed it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was calculated. They planned this, I said, sinking onto my parents' bed, the anger finally starting to bubble. Maybe not long-term, but once they saw the cruise deal, they deliberately used my money. Grandma sat beside me, her small hand covering mine. Your father has always wanted what he wants, when he wants it, she said softly. I failed him as a mother in that way. I should have taught him better. I shook my head, too numb even to cry yet. This isn't your fault, Grandma. Perhaps not entirely, she conceded. But what matters now is what we do next. What we did next was call my nursing school's financial aid office, only to get a cheerful holiday voicemail. Same with my academic advisor. Reality fully sunk in, and with it, the first wave of desperate panic. I can't afford another loan, I choked out, pacing the kitchen. I maxed out my eligibility. Without this money, I can't finish school. You will finish, Grandma said firmly. We will figure this out. But in that moment, surrounded by evidence of my family's betrayal, my carefully constructed future suddenly in jeopardy, I couldn't see how. I carried my suitcases and the bags of now meaningless gifts to my childhood bedroom. It was exactly as I'd left it, nursing pioneer posters, science textbooks, acceptance letters pinned to the corkboard. Sitting on the edge of my twin bed, surrounded by relics of a younger, more trusting self, I finally broke down. The tears came in great, heaving sobs, a primal scream from the very center of my being. I cried for the betrayal, for the careless way my family had jeopardized my future, for the years of hard work now at risk, and for the devastating realization that the people who should protect me the most had instead chosen to harm me for their temporary pleasure. A soft knock. Grandma Eleanor entered, carrying a steaming mug of chamomile tea, her universal remedy. Without a word, she set it down and sat beside me, her small body barely making a dip in the mattress. She placed her gnarled hand on my back, moving it in slow, comforting circles, just as she had when I was a child with nightmares. Let it out, Rosie, she murmured. You've earned these tears. When the worst of the storm had passed, leaving me hiccuping and red-eyed, she handed me the tea and a box of tissues. Now we talk, she said, her voice firm. For the next 2 hours, we did. Not just about the cruise, but about the pattern. This isn't the first time, is it? Grandma asked, though it wasn't really a question. No, I admitted, the memories flooding back. The $800 I saved for a laptop at 16, borrowed by Dad, never seen again. My college fund, whittled down to less than $3,000 by the time I was ready for college. My first car, ruined by Dad. Jacob's textbook money, paid back months late. Olivia using my credit card for concert tickets, lying it was for art supplies. They take advantage of me. They always have. And do you know something else? Grandma asked, rising with difficulty and returning with a photo album I'd made in high school. They do it to me too. As we flipped through old family photos, Grandma revealed her own heartbreaking stories, How my father convinced her to sell her house and move in, only to use most of the proceeds to pay off his credit card debt. How her Social Security checks sometimes disappeared from her purse. How her jewelry, including her wedding ring, gradually vanished during tight financial months. "Why did you never say anything?" I asked, shocked. "Same reason as you, I expect," she said with a sad smile. Love, shame, hope that next time would be different. My phone buzzed again, more social media notifications. Ziplining through a tropical forest, swimming with dolphins, a formal dinner at the captain's table. In each image, they beamed with carefree joy, oblivious. My messages to them remained unread. "I can't believe they're just ignoring me," I said, tossing the phone aside in disgust. "They know what they did was wrong," Grandma said firmly. "It's easier to pretend everything is fine than face the consequences." I spent the rest of the evening in a daze, making calls that went to voicemail, sending emails that received auto-replies about holiday closures, calculating and recalculating my finances. Without that loan money, I was nearly $5,000 short for my final semester, even after emptying my meager savings. Sleep was impossible. I lay awake, staring at the inaccurate glow-in-the-dark constellations on my ceiling. Would I have to drop out? Take a semester off? Beg the school for emergency assistance? Every option seemed impossible or humiliating. Sometime after midnight, I heard Grandma on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was uncharacteristically sharp. "Harold James Wilson, you answer this phone right now. I know the ship has service." A pause. "No, I will not call back tomorrow. You put Diana on too. I want you both to hear this." Another pause. "What you have done to Rosalind is despicable, and there will be consequences when you return." Her voice dropped too low for me to hear the rest. Eventually, exhaustion claimed me, and I fell into troubled dreams where I was drowning in an ocean of student loan paperwork, while my family sailed by on a luxury cruise ship, waving and laughing. Morning brought no relief. I woke to the stark realization. I had precisely 15 days to somehow come up with nearly $10,000, or my nursing degree and the stable future it promised would be delayed at best, lost at worst. Grandma was already up, the kitchen filled with the aroma of coffee. "You look like you've been hit by a truck," she observed bluntly. "Feel like it, too," I mumbled. "Sit," she commanded. "I've been thinking." She placed a plate of scrambled eggs and toast before me. "Eat while I talk. You'll need your strength." I noticed she was dressed in one of her nice pantsuits, her white hair neatly styled, makeup applied. She sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by notebooks, my laptop open in front of her. "You seem energized," I commented, taking in her unusual morning efficiency. "I am," she confirmed, looking up, her eyes clear and determined behind her reading glasses. "I was up at 5. Planning." "Planning what?" "Operation Consequence," she replied with grim satisfaction, turning the laptop toward me. To my surprise, she had created a detailed spreadsheet with multiple tabs. "I know this comes as a shock, but your grandmother is not entirely technologically inept. I've been taking classes at the community center for years." "I can see that," I said, impressed despite my emotional exhaustion. "What is all this?" "This, my dear, is how we are going to fix the mess your family created." She pointed to the screen. "First tab is financial options. Second is legal considerations. Third is a timeline of action items. Fourth is a list of resources and contacts." I blinked at her efficiency. "Grandma, I appreciate this, but I'm not sure there is a solution." "I've called everyone." "There is always a solution," she interrupted firmly. "It may not be easy or comfortable, but there is always a way forward." She proceeded to outline her strategy. First, she revealed a modest savings account she'd kept secret from my parents. "Not a fortune, mind you," she clarified, "but enough to temporarily cover your tuition needs if we cannot recover the money in time." "Grandma, no." I protested immediately. "That's your retirement money. I can't take that." "You are not taking it," she corrected. "I am lending it to you with proper documentation, and your family will be repaying me every penny with interest." The steel in her voice made it clear this was non-negotiable. "Besides," she continued, more gently, "what good is saving for my future if I cannot help secure yours? You are the only one in this family who has shown real responsibility and ambition. My investment in you is the safest one I could make." Tears threatened again, but of a different kind. "I don't know what to say." "Say you will stop being a doormat," she replied bluntly. "Love without limits creates monsters, Rosie. I learned that too late with your father. You have a chance to learn it now." Over the next hour, she shared her own story in more detail than I had ever heard before. How she had enabled my father's poor financial habits from childhood, making excuses for his irresponsibility, cleaning up his messes. How my grandfather had warned her, but she hadn't listened. How the pattern repeated with my siblings. "Your mother is no better," she added. "Diane has champagne tastes on a beer budget. Always has. They enable each other's worst tendencies." "But what can we do now?" I asked. "Even if we secure my tuition, they still took my money." "That brings us to phase 2, Grandma said, flipping to another spreadsheet tab. Practical consequences. Her plan was comprehensive. They had left numerous loose ends, all house keys, but not changed the security. Code: the refrigerator nearly empty. Several bills unpaid, no mail arrangements. They assumed you would handle everything, Rosalind, as you always have. Her Operation Consequence plan addressed all of it. She had researched the legal implications of unauthorized use of student loan money. She had called the cruise line customer service that morning, pretending to be my mother, and confirmed their return arrangements. She had contacted her friend Terry, a retired attorney, for advice on drafting a repayment agreement. "We need to be ready when they return," she explained. "No emotional scenes, no accusations they can dismiss. Just calm, firm consequences with no wiggle room." The plan unfolded with military precision. First, a locksmith to change all exterior locks. "They took the keys, but left us behind," Grandma reasoned. "Clearly, they forfeit entry privileges without our approval." Next, a careful inventory of valuables in the house. "Not that I think they would sell family heirlooms," Grandma said, "but better safe than sorry given their current behavior." She had already begun documenting everything with photographs, including the empty student loan account, the cruise social media posts, and the note they had left. "Rosie," she said seriously, "the most important thing is that you are prepared to hold firm. They will cry, they will yell, they will try to make you feel guilty. They will say you are overreacting or that it was just a misunderstanding. They will promise to pay you back someday when it's convenient for them." I nodded, knowing she was right. "And you need to be ready to say no. To say that their behavior has consequences, and those consequences are immediate and non-negotiable." "What if I can't?" I whispered, voicing my deepest fear. "What if I give in like I always do?" Grandma took my hands, her paper-thin skin covering surprisingly strong fingers. "You can and you will, because this time you are not alone. I will be right beside you, and I have 82 years of practice at being stubborn." That made me smile, if only faintly. "Besides," she added with a twinkle in her eye, "I have backup." That backup, it turned out, was an impressive network of Eleanor's friends. Terry, the retired lawyer, was helping draft a legally binding repayment agreement. Martin, a retired locksmith, offered discounted services. Her bridge club friends volunteered to be present during the confrontation as witnesses and moral support. "Elderly does not mean powerless," she informed me with dignity. With renewed purpose, I joined her in implementing the plan. I called my school's financial aid emergency line, documenting the situation for when offices reopened. I secured our important documents in a safe deposit box at Grandma's bank. I helped move particularly valuable items to Eleanor's sister's house nearby. By evening, we had changed the locks, secured the valuables, documented the financial theft, and begun drafting the repayment agreement. "Now for the most difficult part," Grandma said as we sat down to a simple dinner. Emotional preparation. She was right. The practical tasks had been straightforward, but the thought of confronting my family, of standing firm against their manipulations, filled me with anxiety. "They'll say I'm being selfish," I said, pushing food around my plate, "that they deserve a vacation, that I'm making a big deal out of nothing." "And what will you say?" Grandma prompted. I took a deep breath. That taking my money without permission was wrong. That actions have consequences. that I need the money back immediately or a signed agreement for repayment. And if they refuse? The question hung in the air. What would I do if they refused? The answer came more easily than I expected. Then I'll file a police report for theft and contact the school to report fraudulent use of student loan funds. Grandma nodded approvingly. It will not come to that. They are irresponsible, not stupid, but they need to know you are serious. I am serious, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. This is my future. This is my life. I've worked too hard to let them take it away for a vacation. That's my girl, Grandma said with a proud smile. Now, let's practice what you will say when they try to make you feel guilty. We spent the evening role-playing different scenarios. Grandma, displaying unexpected acting talent, took turns playing my father's blustering authority, my mother's tearful manipulations, and my siblings' varied approaches to deflecting responsibility. With each practice round, my responses grew more confident, my resolve stronger. By the time we went to bed that night, I felt prepared in a way I never had before for a confrontation with my family. Remember, Grandma said as we parted, you are not just doing this for yourself. You are doing it for them too. Real love means setting boundaries. Without consequences, they will never change. As I lay in bed, I reflected on how much had changed in just 2 days. I had discovered a strength in myself I hadn't known existed and an ally in Grandma Eleanor I had always taken for granted. Tomorrow would bring more preparations. The day after, my family would return, and nothing would ever be the same again. Day 1 of our plan dawned cold and clear. Martin, the locksmith, arrived promptly. Eleanor filled me in, he said, a spry man in his 70s. Terrible thing, family taking advantage like that. In just under 2 hours, he changed all the exterior locks and installed a new electronic keypad on the front door. Temporary code for now, he explained. After your family makes amends, you can decide who gets permanent access. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. For the first time, I would control who entered this space. After Martin left, Grandma and I carefully documented the house's condition with photos and video, the undecorated rooms, the nearly empty fridge, the unpaid bills. Terry, the retired attorney, arrived next. Eleanor explained the situation, she said, declining coffee. Let's get straight to business. The repayment agreement she drafted was comprehensive. Unauthorized withdrawal of $9,876, a repayment schedule with modest interest, and consequences for missed payments. This is just a starting point for negotiation, Terry explained, but begin from a position of strength. They took advantage of you, not the other way around. We focused on practical prep, grocery shopping, mail collection, paying urgent bills. Added to their tab, Grandma said grimly as we wrote a check for the overdue electric bill. By evening, I felt a growing confidence, like putting on armor piece by piece. Day 2 brought new challenges. My mother posted more cruise photos, best family vacation ever. So grateful for this time together. The casual cruelty of excluding Grandma and me stung. Then, more worryingly, my bank notified me of attempted credit card charges from the cruise ship gift shop. Declined, but the attempt indicated they were now trying to use my credit card. Unbelievable, I said, showing Grandma. They steal $10,000 and then try to charge more? Entitlement breeds entitlement, she replied, unsurprised. I called the card company, reporting potential fraud. The rest of the day was devoted to organizing documentation and preparing for potential outcomes. Grandma's friend Beth, a retired social worker, came over to help us practice handling emotional confrontations. They'll try to push your buttons, she warned. They know exactly which ones work because they installed them. We role-played more scenarios, with Beth taking on my mother's role with frightening accuracy. After all we've sacrificed for you, she wailed, channeling my mother perfectly. This is how you repay us? Each time, I practiced responding calmly but firmly. This isn't about past sacrifices. This is about the $10,000 taken from my account without permission. By evening, I felt emotionally stronger, though anxiety still churned beneath the surface. Day 3 focused on final preparations and contingency planning. What if they refused to sign? What if they made a scene? What if they just walked away? For each scenario, we developed a response. Legal options were documented. A rental car reserved in case we needed to leave quickly. Support people confirmed for the confrontation. Remember, Grandma said, we are not doing this to punish them. We are doing this to establish boundaries and consequences. I nodded, though a part of me did want to punish them for their casual betrayal. That evening, a text finally arrived from my mother, having the most amazing time, flying home tomorrow, slight emergency with your father's work. See you around dinner time. Cannot wait to tell you all about it. Love you. No mention of my money. No acknowledgement of what they had done. No apology. And so it begins, Grandma said when I showed her the text, the pretense that everything is normal. I did not reply. Day 4 dawned with a light snow falling, adding to the surreal quality of the situation. This should have been Christmas morning, family gathered around a tree. Instead, Grandma and I sat at the kitchen table, watching the clock. Their flight had landed. A text from my sister confirmed they were in a ride-share heading home. Grandma's friends began arriving, Terry with her legal paperwork, Beth with her social work experience, Martin just in case, and 3 members of the Bridge Club as additional witnesses. A gray-haired army of support gathered in my living room. Thank you all for coming, I said, genuinely touched. We take care of our own, Terry replied simply. Eleanor has been there for each of us at some point. A notification from the home security system showed a car pulling into the driveway. Through the front window, I watched my family emerge, sunburned and laden with souvenirs, laughing as they gathered their luggage. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. Grandma came to stand beside me, her small hand finding mine. Remember who you are, she said quietly. Remember what you deserve. I nodded, squeezing her hand as the doorbell rang. It was time. The doorbell rang again, more insistently. I took a deep breath, exchanged a final glance with Grandma, and moved to the front window. Pulling back the curtain slightly, I could see them on the porch, my father already reaching for his keys. Rosie, my mother called, spotting me. We're home. Open up. It's freezing out here. I pressed the intercom button on the new security system. I can see that, I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. Why are your keys working? My father's face appeared at the window, confused, then angry. What the hell? Did you change the locks? Yes, I confirmed simply. We need to talk before you come in. This is ridiculous, he sputtered, his face reddening beneath his fresh tan. It's 20 degrees out here, and we've been traveling all day. Let us in right now. We can talk through the doorbell camera, I said, nodding to Grandma who activated the device, or you can agree to a calm conversation about what happened with my student loan money. Their faces on the small screen showed a range of emotions. My father looked outraged, my mother confused, Jacob embarrassed, and Olivia increasingly concerned. What are you talking about? My mother asked, though her eyes darted away. We just need to get inside. We can discuss whatever's bothering you then. I'm talking about the $10,000 you took from my account without permission, I said clearly. The money that was for my final semester of nursing school. The money you spent on a cruise without even asking me. A moment of stunned silence. My father recovered first. Now listen here, he began, his sales pitch voice activated. We didn't steal anything. That was a family account, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a last-minute cancellation. We deserved a vacation after everything we've been through this year. That doesn't explain why you didn't ask me first, I replied. Or why you left Grandma alone without proper care. Mom was fine, my mother interjected quickly. And we were going to pay you back, of course. We just needed to enjoy the holidays first. With my money, I added. Money I needed for school. My mother's expression turned pleading. Sweetie, you're making this into something it's not. We're family. We share things. Now, please let us in before we freeze. Grandma stepped up beside me. There will be conditions for entry, she announced firmly. My father's face darkened further. Mom, you're behind this. This is between us and Rosalind. You left me here too, Harold, Grandma reminded him. With no discussion, no proper arrangements, just a note telling Rosalind to take care of me as if I am a houseplant. We knew Rosie would be here, my mother said defensively. And the ship wasn't accessible for someone with your mobility issues. Convenient, Grandma replied dryly. My siblings had remained largely silent, but now Jacob stepped forward. This is stupid. It's our house too. You can't keep us out. Actually, we can, I replied. And we will, until we have discussed the repayment of my money. Repayment, my mother echoed, as if the concept was entirely new. Honey, of course, we'll pay you back eventually. When things settled down, I pressed, how, with what money? The uncomfortable shifting and avoided gazes told me everything. There was no plan. There never had been. Here is what's going to happen, I said, channeling Grandma's calm authority. We have prepared a repayment agreement. You will review and sign it. Then we can discuss entry to the house. This is insane, my father exploded. You can't treat your family like this. After everything we've done for you. Something inside me hardened at his words. What exactly have you done for me, Dad? Taken my college fund? Borrowed my car and returned it broken? Used my student loan for a vacation while I worked 3 jobs to put myself through school? His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. By now, a few neighbors had noticed the commotion. Perhaps we should continue this conversation more privately, my mother suggested, her social embarrassment overriding everything else. I agree, I said. There's a coffee shop 3 blocks away. We can meet there in 15 minutes to discuss the agreement. In this weather, with all our luggage, my father protested. Your choice, I replied with a shrug. Public discussion on the porch with the neighbors watching, or private discussion at the coffee shop. They huddled, whispering urgently. Finally, my mother turned back to the camera. Fine, the coffee shop. But only you, Rosalind, not your grandmother's friends. She had spotted Terry through the window. Non-negotiable, I replied. Terry comes with me, as does Grandma. The others will wait here. More whispers, then reluctant agreement. They trudged back to their ride share. 15 minutes later, we sat in the back corner of Magnolia Coffee, a small local shop decorated for Christmas. The contrast between the festive atmosphere and our tense faces was stark. Terry placed a folder on the table between us. This is a legally binding repayment agreement, she explained in her crisp, professional voice. My father didn't even reach for it. This is ridiculous. We don't need lawyers and contracts. We're family. Family does not steal from family, Grandma replied simply. We didn't steal, my mother insisted, her voice rising. It was a misunderstanding. What part was misunderstood? I asked quietly. The part where you knew it was my student loan money? The part where you didn't ask permission? The part where you knew I needed it for school? No one answered directly. Look, Jacob finally said, what's done is done. The money is spent. We can't magically give it back right now. Which is why there is a repayment plan, Terry interjected, tapping the folder. Starting with an immediate payment of $1,000 from your return flight refunds. My head snapped up. What return flight refunds? A guilty look passed between my parents. We had to change our return flights, my mother admitted. The original ones were for December 27th, but your father had a work emergency. So, you have refunds coming, Grandma concluded. Which will go directly to Rosalind. My father picked up the agreement, his frown deepening. These terms are ridiculous. There's no way we can pay back this much this quickly. Then Rosalind will have no choice but to pursue other options, Terry said calmly, including reporting the unauthorized use of student loan funds, which can trigger investigations by both the school and the lending institution. My mother paled. You wouldn't do that to your own family. I didn't want to, I said honestly. I wanted to come home for Christmas, spend time with my family, and go back to school to finish my degree. You are the ones who changed the plan, not me. For the first time, Olivia spoke up. Mom, Dad, she's right. We took her money without asking. That was wrong. My sister's unexpected support created a shift in the atmosphere. My mother's defiance crumbled slightly. My father looked less certain. At minimum, Terry continued, the credit card charges attempted from the cruise ship gift shop need to be addressed. What credit card charges? My father asked sharply, looking at my mother. She had the grace to look embarrassed. I may have tried to use Rosa's card for a few souvenirs. I thought it would be fine. After taking $10,000, you try to charge more? Grandma asked incredulously. The conversation continued in this vein for nearly an hour. My parents cycled through denial, anger, minimizing, and blame shifting. Jacob largely supported them, while Olivia became increasingly uncomfortable, occasionally offering quiet support for my position. "What happens if we don't sign?" my father finally asked, pushing the agreement away. "Then you don't enter the house," I said simply. "And I pursue legal options for recovering the money." "You would make your own family homeless at Christmas?" my mother asked, tears finally appearing. "You would steal your daughter's education money for a cruise?" Grandma countered. The stalemate stretched on. Terry checked her watch pointedly. "I have another appointment in 30 minutes, she said. "So, a decision needs to be made." My father stared at me, perhaps seeing me clearly for the first time, not as his compliant daughter who would eventually give in, but as a woman standing her ground. "We cannot pay it all back immediately," he finally said, his voice less combative. "The agreement doesn't require that," I pointed out. "It requires good faith, immediate payment of what you can, and a structured plan for the rest." After another tense silence, my mother reached for the agreement. "We will sign," she said quietly. "But I want it noted that we were always going to pay you back." This formal approach was unnecessary. I bit back a retort, recognizing the small victory. One by one, they signed the document, my father last, and with visible reluctance. "Now, can we go home?" Jacob asked sullenly. "Yes," I said, gathering the signed papers. "But things will be different." As we walked back through the snow-covered streets, I explained the new household rules. They would have temporary entry codes to the house, not permanent ones. Financial responsibilities would be clearly documented and shared. Grandma's Social Security checks would be deposited directly to her personal account. "This feels like punishment," my mother complained. "This feels like consequences," I corrected her. "There's a difference." They entered their changed home environment with subdued expressions, taking in the absence of Christmas decorations. They had never put them up, the practical groceries rather than holiday treats, the neatly organized bills awaiting payment. "Welcome home," I said, feeling the weight of change settle over us all. The first night was tense, to say the least. My parents retreated to their bedroom early, the weight of consequences visibly heavy on their shoulders. Jacob alternated between sullen silence and attempts to normalize the situation with jokes that fell flat. Only Olivia made genuine efforts to repair the damage, helping me prepare a simple dinner and asking thoughtful questions about my final semester requirements. Grandma Eleanor maintained her position as moral compass and mediator, firm, but not punitive. "This is not about making anyone suffer," she reminded me privately as we washed dishes. "It is about creating change." Over the next week, the patterns established during our confrontation continued to play out. My parents initially resisted the new financial accountability, complaining about the detailed expense tracking and shared bill payments I implemented. My father attempted to reassert control several times, making unilateral decisions, then acting surprised when I challenged them. "I'm the head of this household," he declared during one heated discussion about the electricity bill. "And I'm the one holding you accountable," I countered. "The agreement you signed requires financial transparency." Gradually, as days passed, the resistance began to fade. The signed repayment agreement hung on the refrigerator as a constant reminder. The first payment, drawn from their flight refunds and supplemented by the sale of some cruise souvenirs, was transferred to my account. With Eleanor's temporary loan covering my immediate school expenses, I was able to register for my final clinical rotations on time. The relief of knowing my education would continue uninterrupted allowed me to focus on the longer-term healing our family needed. 2 weeks after their return, I went back to Chicago to begin my final semester. The distance provided perspective for everyone. Weekly video calls included financial updates, with my parents reporting on their progress toward repayment. My father had taken on weekend consulting work. My mother had reduced her shopping and started selling and used household items online. The most surprising development came from my siblings. Jacob, after initial resistance, seemed to undergo a transformation. During one video call, he showed me his new budgeting app and shared that he had taken on additional shifts. "I never realized how much you were carrying for all of us," he admitted awkwardly. "It wasn't fair." Olivia went even further, calling me privately to apologize. I was part of it too, she said. Taking advantage of you, I mean. I just never saw it that way until now. Until I saw how hard you fought for yourself. These conversations were not easy. Years of established patterns don't change overnight. There were setbacks, like when my mother borrowed from the repayment fund for a department store sale, or when my father questioned whether full repayment was really necessary. Each time, I held firm to the boundaries we had established. And each time, it became a little easier to do so. Grandma Eleanor, true to her word, moved part-time to Chicago after I graduated, renting a small apartment near my new job at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Her presence helped me maintain my newfound strength and provided a buffer as my relationship with my parents slowly healed on more equal footing. The following Christmas was dramatically different. Instead of elaborate gift exchanges funded by credit card debt, we agreed on modest, thoughtful presents. My parents hosted a small dinner rather than an extravagant party. Most importantly, they had repaid nearly half of what they had taken, making consistent monthly payments, even when it required sacrifices. The lessons I learned from that terrible Christmas and its aftermath transformed me in ways I could never have anticipated. I discovered my own strength and worth. I learned that real love includes boundaries and accountability. I realized that allowing people to experience the consequences of their actions is sometimes the greatest gift you can give them. As a nurse, these lessons proved invaluable. I brought new empathy to patients struggling with difficult family dynamics. I recognized enabling behaviors and could gently guide people toward healthier boundaries. I understood from personal experience that healing often begins with painful truth. My relationship with my family will never be what it was before. The blind trust is gone, replaced by something more cautious, but ultimately more genuine. My parents still struggle with financial responsibility, but now they do so openly, asking for guidance rather than taking advantage. My siblings have become allies rather than competitors for resources. And Grandma Eleanor, at 84, continues to demonstrate that it is never too late to change family patterns. Her courage in standing with me and acknowledging her own role in creating my father's sense of entitlement remains one of the greatest acts of love I have ever witnessed. Sometimes, the most valuable Christmas gift is not found under a tree or on a cruise ship. Sometimes, it comes in the form of difficult conversations, painful growth, and the courage to say no more to those we love most. That terrible note on the refrigerator led to the most important journey of my life. Not across the Caribbean, but across the much more challenging terrain of self-worth and family healing. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took advantage of you? Thanks for listening to my story. Take care.